Alchemy Theatre Company started about 5 or 6 years ago. Myself and four of the members, Tiffany Berg, Jesse Rundy, Stephen John, and Corey John, and we decided to start a theater company. We do a lot of Shakespeare outside in the park. We also do charity events for a women's group every year. And so we're just starting to expand, and we've expanded the company itself. So now we have over 10 members currently that are able to help out and show up, and we're just going to get bigger and bigger. So Alchemy goes out and we approach theaters and ask them, hey, we have a show, you can take a little break off, because running a theater is no joke. I encourage anybody to try it once because it's a lot of work. And sometimes you just need a break. So Alchemy, we try and find theaters who maybe have a dark month, or they don't quite have a show in the space yet, or maybe they have a show that we could work very well and rep with. And so we go out and we find the theaters and we make the contracts, and then for Costa Mesa, they were really lovely, and we talked back and forth, making sure what the financial arrangements would be and who would be responsible for what. And I have to say that Costa Mesa has just been stellar in their support of us and making sure that we have the space and helping out with painting or lights or whatever it is that they can give us a little leg up. So the partnership has been really wonderful, and I can't thank the folks at Costa Mesa enough for all of their help. Anne Washburn is a wonderful woman, and she wrote this play 2014, and it went to off-Broadway and did very, very well. But when you come to see the show, you can see why it's not quite Broadway and it's not quite off-Broadway. It's this very special show that really speaks to both the theater community and people who love The Simpsons. So that's a pretty wide net in general. So that's kind of why we wanted to do it. We wanted to encourage people who might not see a theater production to come see it for The Simpsons. And then when they get here, we give them a very cool theater experience that's a dark comedy, a farce, and also like a Greek opera at the end. So it encompasses so many elements of theater, and as Alchemy, we try and do as many elements of theater as we possibly can, but we are a gypsy company. We move around from theater to theater, and so sometimes getting all those ideas into one show, and it's masterfully done by Anne Washburn. She does a fantastic job of moving from each kind of theater experience to the next. And so it's a really wonderful opportunity for Alchemy to put on the show. It was very difficult for her to get the okay to use The Simpsons. I have a feeling more so for her than for me, because every theater we deal with Sam French and Dramatist Play Service, but I also had to then deal with Fox Entertainment and send the logos to them and say, can we use this? And they say, no, that light bulb looks too much like Homer. It needs to be a different kind of light bulb. Selling merchandise and all that kind of stuff. So I think that luckily Anne Washburn deals with it very lovingly, and the show uses The Simpsons as a leaping off point, but she uses the spiritual and emotional attachment we all have to The Simpsons as opposed to the characters themselves. The characters are again, archetypes and myths that we use to project ourselves to get through our days. Mr. Burns is a post-electric play, so it's post-apocalyptic, but there are no zombies or anything like that. It is a group of survivors getting together and needing each other for survival, not just for resources, but also for entertainment, because the only thing that anybody can really agree on in this post-electric world where there is no TV is that The Simpsons was the best thing on TV. So they're sitting around, and as a way to distract themselves from the actual horrors that are going on around them, they tell the best they can memories and stories of these Simpsons episodes. So that's Act 1, and then the second act is 7 years later. They have become a theater troupe, not unlike Alchemy, trying to put together episodes of the Simpsons episodes, along with commercials and songs and jingles and everything that goes along with them. And then the third act is 75 years later, where these people who were once survivors trying to put together these episodes have become the myths and legends themselves. So where the Simpsons become myths and archetypes in Act 2 and so on, in Act 3, the Simpsons are also the archetypes, but even the survivors that we saw in the first two acts, who are long since gone, have become myths themselves, and parts of them live on in Act 3. So the show is really about survival, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, and what lives on after us, which is a great, idea for any playwright. It's a lot of fun. It's especially more fun off stage before we start up. We find ourselves even, just before we start up, trying to piece together other episodes, and you can feel from the first act of the play how natural that really is, and we'll correct each other and like, no, that's not from that episode, that's from this other episode, or trying to figure out who the best one-time cameos ever are on The Simpsons. It's Hank Scorpio, by the way, and just messing around with that kind of stuff. And then when we're on stage with the actual words of the episodes or things like that, we have a great cast, and I always like to say we're very serious about our funny. That we do a really good job of making sure that we make it funny for the audience and that we're not laughing at ourselves so much. We laugh at each other a lot off stage, and then on stage it's our job to make sure everybody's having a good time. My actors, individually, they're all wonderful people. I could go through the list, but they're all exceptionally talented, and they're multi-talented because it's not just they have to be funny or understand The Simpsons or anything like that. Act 3 is primarily an opera. So they all sing, they all have gorgeous voices, they all have amazing comedic timing, and then they're all really, really charming. You could sit down and just hang out with any of them. So they're probably the best looking cast I've ever worked with ever. And so they're just multi-talented. We don't make them dance too much because I'm not much of a dancer myself, so I don't expect that out of anybody, but I'm sure they're world-class dancers as well. I think it's much more difficult to have a play that separates those ideas so much, because in a musical you're expected to do a very short amount of dialogue and then you're back to singing, which is probably your strength if you're in a musical. But this show, we require everybody to be top-notch comedic actors, top-notch dramatic actors for the first 2 acts, 1.5 acts, and then after that, they have to be top-notch singers, because you can't get to the end of this show and be a great comedic actor and then just not sing at the end. They also have to be great, fighters. We do stage combat as well in the show. So there's everything. There's sword fights, there's smoke, there's guns, there's comedy, there's The Simpsons, there's jingles. This show really does have everything. I want them to get laughs out of it. The show is very funny. I also want them to maybe walk away, you're talking over drinks afterwards about what would you put on. If there was no electricity or anything like that, what is a show that is near and dear to you, that inspires you, that would outlast civilization, I guess. And then I guess the biggest thing is to get out a sense of imagination and creativity. The show deals a lot with spectacle coming from within. So I'd like them to be excited about the possibility of theater, of just using some household items, the amazing things that you can create on stage, and that theater isn't limited to big spectacle of the Pantages or even small hole-in-the-wall theaters. You can do big things, to do more with less.